everyone, I'm Alan from 3-4, and I just finished Clone Wars. All by myself. I did it myself. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the show, because it was recommended to me by literally everyone on the face of the planet, because I'm a huge Star Wars fan and a big old nerd. And so, you know, as someone who loves Star Wars, but obviously has the opinion that they should have about certain films, it was recommended to me as a show that actually is good Star Wars, which is hard to come by, and has been since 1983, with the exception of Revenge of the Sith, of course. So it was explained to me as this amazing show, as this really... an amazing car. Every time I film, someone goes, I'm going to drive past in my car, and I'm going to go... Brum, 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 brum. It was explained to me as this amazing, incredible show that's just really fantastic storytelling and really gets to the heart of Star Wars. And to be honest, it really is. It's so good. Oh my god, it's so good. It's a great show. I'm so glad it was recommended to me. But I want to talk about it. I want to talk about my experience with it and what it was like. Straight from the get-go, I watched the film. The film wasn't too great. Didn't really like it. I didn't even like Ahsoka. I should get closer to the mic. I didn't even like Ahsoka very much in the film. Just didn't really like it in general. She turned out to be actually probably my favourite character in the show. Oh, no, Palps. Palps, dude. Palps. He's the best. Palps, man. So right from the start, I started with the film, didn't really like it. Went over to Series 1. And I liked it a lot. My immediate thought was, wow, I actually get to experience this universe and like delve into all of these characters. And like, look, there's Felucia, which popped up for like a few seconds in Revenge of the Sith, and we get to go to Coruscant and actually look around Coruscant and actually see the ins and outs. And we don't have to, you know, just re-enter the world for a couple of hours every 3 years. I actually get to look around it and see all of the different Jedi, Plo and Ki-Adi-Mundi. But yeah, there's all of these different Jedi that I actually get to see and see them interact and see what they're like. Oh, it's so great. And that was my immediate thought. Although I will say that I struggled a little bit with season 1. I liked the episodes a lot. I liked what was going on a lot. Also, my second thought, by the way, was, wow, Anakin is so much better in the show than he is in the films. I'm sorry, Hayden Christensen. But he's so much better in Clone Wars. Anakin is a fantastic character in Clone Wars. A great balance, really well voiced. Just a great overall character. Really, really enjoyable to watch. But I struggled a little bit because of the episode structure. No one had told me about the episode structure for Clone Wars. And so I'll tell you now, in case you're going to go watch it after this ringing endorsement. It follows this like arc structure. So you have lots of different story arcs that happen within a season, rather than a straight up open narrative that pretty much every show in the world has right now, even reality TV, where you go from one episode and then there's a cliffhanger, then something else continues on. In Clone Wars, you have like, you introduce a new episode with new characters and planets and stuff like that, and then you continue on with that story, close the story, start again with another story. Now, that sounds interesting. Unfortunately, and it's a bit of a catch-22, unfortunately, by the end of the arc, my immediate thought wasn't, oh my god, I can't wait to see what happens next. It was, okay, well, that's wrapped up now. And I wasn't very excited about seeing what happens next, especially as someone who's used to open-ended narratives like Breaking Bad and things like that, and getting excited for the next episode. With this, I'm kind of, it's done now. But the issue is, it's a real catch-22, because in order to have that great, like, expansive universe, and in order to check in on every corner of the Star Wars universe and have all of these different characters and examine them and let characters grow like Ahsoka and let the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan actually flourish, rather than waiting a few years and then seeing them pop up again and then immediately having them in conflict with one another, actually allowing them to grow together. You kind of have to do that because it's a universe of stories. There's stories everywhere. It's a huge conflict, and in order to cover all of that, you have to start again. In order to cover as much ground as possible, you have to say, here's a story that happens on, they never go to Mustafar Dathomir, and then here's a story that happens on Felucia, and here's a story of Mandalorian. I will say that, you know, if they were going to do that, then maybe they could have done a few more planets. The number of planets you visit does start to dry up. The narrative across the series does like close in a bit and get a little bit more personal and introspective. It starts, I mean, like, I don't want to say it completely happens, because you go to play like places like Mortis and wherever Yoda went at the end of season 6. I can't remember what the name of the planet is, and they're great planets and it's really great, but it does start to close in on itself a bit, which is actually a good thing, because it means you get to experience the stuff that happens at the start, all that world building and all of the crazy stuff that's happening in the universe, and then things start to close in and the stories get a little more sort of engrossing and happening within themselves. And I think that's good. That's a good approach. And yeah, as the show goes on and you do get used to the structure of the show, and to be honest, you know, as the stories connect a little more, I guess, it does become very engrossing and very addictive, and I couldn't stop watching it. As soon as I got to the stuff with Savage Press and Darth Maul, which is when the show really ratchets up. Like, as soon as Savage Press is introduced, and all the stuff with Ventress, and you get to see more about Ventress, who is one of my favourite characters in the Star Wars universe. I love Ventress so much, and she gets a great voice acting, great character, well modelled, everything. Yeah, as soon as all of that stuff kicks up, though, I think it's around about season 3, that's when the show really becomes an amazing TV show. The first couple of seasons are great. A lot of the stuff is more aimed at kids, but it gets a lot darker, and actually with a few episodes, in order to indicate that it's going to get darker, they actually make the Clone Wars logo red, and a couple of times they made it blue. I don't know what that was for. But yeah, before it gets darker, it is more of a kids show. However, this is not a kids show, and I think that was one of the reasons I didn't really get into it at first, is because I was a teenager when this rendition of Clone Wars came out, and I just thought it's a kids show, you know, it's got Cartoon Network plastered all over it. No thanks. Look at the art style. Do not let the Cartoon Network branding and the art style fool you. This is not a kids show. It really isn't. This is not a show aimed at kids. In fact, there's a great video online set to, oh god, is it ELO? Mr. Blue Sky? Set to that, where it's just evil, terrible things happening in the show. There's a bit where Ahsoka gets up and just straight up throws her sabers and beheads a bunch of guards standing around her. I said beheads a bunch of guards standing around her. There's a bit where Savage gets up off a table and just straight up walks up someone and chokes them. Just grabs them by the throat, chokes them, and actually, I think he snaps their neck after that. I'm not even kidding. This stuff happens. People die all over the place. It's incredibly dark. Oh god, there was an episode where Dooku was tortured. He was tortured by the Night Sisters, who, by the way, are such great characters. The Night Sisters. I'm slipping up. I'm straight up slipping up. The Night Sisters are fantastic characters. Yeah, and Dooku gets tortured. He gets attacked in his sleep. Anakin gets tortured when he's in Mortis as well. It gets to be a super dark show, one of the darkest kid shows. It's not a kid show. It really isn't, so I don't want to say that. It's not at all. For the first season, maybe you could get away with it being a kid show, but after that, it really isn't. So yeah, my highlights before the final season were, obviously, I love the Mortis. That's what I'm talking about. The 8 minutes, and he's put the orange back on the end of his exhaust, so he's like, oh, let's fire it out the back of my exhaust. My favourite episodes were, I love the Mortis arc. I really love the Mortis arc, and the fact that it actually gets to the root of the Force. Obviously, all the stuff with Savage, who is Darth Maul's brother. Darth Maul comes back, in case you didn't know that. That's crazy because it's in all the promos. There's some amazing shots. There's one shot where Anakin sees into the future and then he kneels down and there's a smoke effect of Vader behind him. Oh, so good. There are some great moments, but I want to talk about Season 7 real quick. But I will say, before Season 7... Actually, maybe overall, Season 5 is my favourite season. And the bits... I don't know how to say this, but there's one moment... There's an episode with Palpatine, and it's... If you've seen the show, prior to what I'm about to talk about, the episode with Palpatine, where he does the thing, is my favourite episode. But Season 7, I really want to talk about because I've just finished it. I love Season 7, but I want to break it down. Season 7 is very much a show about its arcs. The first arc... I thought was good. I like the first arc. I mean, we all love them, right? I love the clones. I love the Fives and Rex and all of that. I love all the clones. And it was a great, like, playing around with the idea of the clones and the clones hanging out and having some good banter episode. But if you've seen season 7, you know what I'm going to say about the second arc. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was very good. I get that it was supposed to reintroduce Ahsoka. I didn't think they did it very well. I don't think the Mortez sisters are the worst thing to ever happen to Star Wars, like some people are saying. I think there's a lot of, I won't even get into that, that's for another video, but there's a lot of people who don't like to see certain people represented. I don't think they were that bad. They were just bland and boring, and they didn't really have much character to them, which, you know, some of the characters don't in the show, but they really didn't. And I think with the amount of episodes that were left, I can see why some people would really be rubbed up the wrong way because of that. I kind of was too. But the last 4 episodes, let me tell you, this is the only way that I can describe this. The last 4 episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and not the film, because that sucks. The last 4 episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars are worth watching 7 seasons of a TV show in order to get to. They are that good. I am not kidding. They're good enough to watch, and you should anyway because it's a great show, but they're good enough alone for 7 seasons of TV. It is the perfect round off to the end of a show. Unbelievable. They actually change up the animation for the last 4 episodes. The animation gets better. The overall sort of softness of the characters, the amount of flow that they have. Some of the lightsaber fights in the initial show seem a bit like jolty and jaggedy, and there's a lot of like zooming in and pushing in. That's because it's an animated show, less frames. They must have spent ages on these last 4 episodes because they're actually fully fledged, fully motioned lightsaber duels, so that must have taken them forever. And there's a fantastic one between someone and someone, and even the cinematography and like the visuals, the overall visuals of the set pieces, even those look incredible. It's such a beautiful arc, and I love the fact that the show opens on a 4-episode movie that kind of sucks and is kind of lame, and at the end, the way that Dave ends the show is by redeeming the original film. He goes, well, the first film sucked, let's end it by proving that we can actually make a good 4-episode film. And it basically is a film, by the way. It really is. They even changed the way that they do the title sequence and the subtitles, and they look fantastic. It's full of character, full of emotion. The relationship between Anakin and Ahsoka is fantastic. The overall narrative is brilliant. The sequences, the set pieces, even the first set piece with Anakin and Obi-Wan on the bridge, again, it's full of character. It's funny, but in the right way. It's kind of poignant. It shows a lot of development for Anakin, and it looks beautiful. I mean, what more could you want? And then it continues on that path. And the ending, man, oh my God! The ending is good. The final scene is, I was thinking back, there are a lot of shows that I love with good endings. Breaking Bad had a great ending. Futurama had a great ending twice. But I can't think of a show with a better ending than the Clone Wars. I'm just gonna say it. I think Clone Wars had the best ending of any TV show I've ever seen. Kind of weird. Seems kind of weird. I'd be saying that about a Cartoon Network show, but I really mean it. I can't think of a show with a better ending. It was perfect. It was actually the perfect way to end the show. It just was, and it fed beautifully into everything that was going on. I don't want to spoil anything, but just to say the last few shots, I mean, it got me a little emotional. And I just started watching the show a few months back. There are people who've been watching the show for a decade. I started watching it a few months back, and I got emotional. I mean, what can I say? I haven't felt that way about Star Wars since I was a kid. It was just incredible. I definitely recommend it. Those last 4 episodes, as I said, they're good enough to watch all 7 seasons of. But yeah, I mean, aside for there were only a few issues I had. Like, there were characters who pop up who they don't really resolve. They introduce a lot of new characters, and I'm actually really happy about that. They don't just rely on old characters. They bring back some... Oh, God. I can't think of his name. I'm just trying to think of his name all morning, but he's the Jedi who initiated the clone program. Cypher Diaz. Cypher Diaz comes back, and that was great. Not really comes back, but in the same way that Darth Bane, who was the original Sith Lord, he is kind of introduced into it as well, and I'm really happy that we get a lot of sort of fan service and people introduced who I've wanted to see, who you only really see in things like novels and comics. That was really great too. Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to see what happened to some of the characters. I can't remember who the guy with the cowboy hat is, who had a lot of screen time in the first few seasons and then just sort of disappeared. There's another hut and a few others huts, but I mean, he gets a resolution, but a lot of characters don't. And I mean, I guess it shows that it's an ever-present universe, although I would be more likely to believe that if it wasn't just so obvious that they just moved away from that for darker, more mature stories, which, again, I'm fine with because they're great stories. But yeah, overall, I definitely recommend it. I haven't watched it. I'd absolutely say go and watch it. If you have Disney Plus, every single episode is on there in 4K. They're only 20 minutes long, but a lot of the seasons have 24 episode lists. But I'd say definitely watch it. Yeah. Do bear in mind, as I said, the arc structure might get in the way of your ability to get like super engrossed in it. But don't let that stop you. It's a fantastic show.